after radical Republicans were able to gain control of Congress in 1866, we see them really take over Reconstruction. The Reconstruction Act of 1867 is going to directly override the president. It did not matter if he vetoed it, they would just turn around and override him. It also is going to call for military rule of the South, or martial law. So they're going to divide the South into 5 military districts and put a general at the head of each of those military districts to run Reconstruction. It specifically protects former slaves, so that's going to be something unique, and is also going to specifically ban former leaders from taking a leadership role in the new government. So these new governments, we're going to see, obviously, the response from the South was not always positive. Scalawags are going to be a term for those Southerners who supported Union plans for Reconstruction. They kind of thought of them as sellouts. So a scalawag is going to be a derogatory term used for those Southerners who liked the plans that the Union had. Your carpetbaggers are going to be another one of those derogatory terms used by Southerners to talk about Northerners who came to the South to run those Reconstruction radical Republican governments, because they got people from the North to come to the South to run those governments, to teach in schools, to teach former slaves, and all of those people were called carpetbaggers. It was seen that they were basically profiting from the South's terrible conditions. In these new governments, African Americans were able to vote. It's not just that they had the right to vote, they were able to vote because the military was there to actually enforce it. So that was going to be really key. African Americans had that right, but they weren't able to exercise it because they didn't have anybody to protect them. At this point in Reconstruction, they did. They even are able to get Black leaders elected to Congress, and that's who you see in that picture in the top there. Unfortunately, just like with any government, there was corruption because there was just a lot of money involved, tax money involved, and there is going to be corruption in some of those new governments, which does give them a bad name in a lot of the Southerners' minds. Johnson is going to continually fight with radical Republicans almost every step of the way. Basically, they were trying to go completely against him, and he was fighting with them as well. So radical Republicans were looking to impeach him, and it was all about that disagreement over Reconstruction. The radical Republicans are going to pass a law called the Tenure of Office Act. This said that the president could not fire his cabinet members without congressional approval. Now, Andrew Johnson believed that this law was unconstitutional. So what he does is he tries to test the legality of this act by firing his Secretary of War. Now remember, Johnson did not appoint his Secretary of War. Lincoln did, because remember, Johnson became president after Lincoln was assassinated. But Johnson wholeheartedly believed that this was an illegal law, and that once it was tested and goes to the Supreme Court, that it would be struck down by the Supreme Court. So this was his way of testing that. Well, when he fired his Secretary of War, it gave Congress all that they needed to bring him up on impeachment charges. Now remember, impeachment simply means wrongdoing while in office. So Johnson is impeached but acquitted. What that means is, remember, impeachment is a two-step process, and the word impeach just means wrongdoing while in office. So he is impeached. He is found guilty of wrongdoing while in office, but the second step of impeachment is the vote for removal from office. So while he was impeached, he was not removed from office. So that's going to be really important here. So Johnson becomes the first president of the United States to be impeached. Johnson is going to serve out the rest of his term, but unfortunately he had no real political capital. He wasn't able to really get anything done in the last years while he was in office. And Ulysses S. Grant is going to be nominated to run as a Republican and won that election very easily from his war hero status from the Civil War, even though he had no real political experience. The one thing coming away from this administration was the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment is going to give Black males the right to vote. And this, again, is going to specifically stipulate that Black men have the right to vote. Again, we talked about how the women's suffrage movement really pushed for the right to vote as well. So they really wanted that word male to be left out of this amendment, but they lost here. So again, the 15th Amendment gives black males the right to vote.